Hi, and welcome to Movies Suck. Today, I'm reviewing Dolittle, or at least I'm attempting to review it, in the same way that the director attempted to make it. Director Stephen Gaghan seems out of his depth with this movie. He seems to have been unable to really get a grip on either the character of Dr. Dolittle, nor his relationship with the animals that, combined with an extremely ropey screenplay, has caused him to lose control over this narrative. The dodgy screenplay is hardly a surprise, as a quick check shows that the screenplay was written by 4 different people, and that really shows in the movie, as it feels like there are 4 different people involved in every scene, and none of them managed to wrest control from the other, so they just showed everything from 4 different perspectives concurrently. At some points you feel as if you're having some sort of fit. In fact, having a fit and being forced to leave the movie theatre would have improved my viewing experience. The movie is a frenetic, jumbled mess. If you put all of the scenes inside a hat, gave it a good shake, picked the scenes from the hat randomly, and then just made the film in the order you picked them out, that wouldn't have really looked any different. It was obvious where the money had gone for this movie. This movie cost $175 million. After they'd forked out $20 million to have Robert Downey Junior headline, the rest of the money went on the CGI. And to be fair, it isn't too bad. Especially since the movie is as much filmed in broad daylight as it is in any form of darkness, so that CGI really does hold up. There are still signs of discomfort and things not quite being there, but it isn't so obvious as to distract you from the massive distraction of trying to watch this movie without your attention wandering to anywhere but the screen. I found myself inordinately interested in the people whose bladders aren't a match to a movie which is only about an hour and a half long. In fact, the shortness of the movie is another thing that plays against it. The script is at great pains to dawdle along at first, making you feel restless and impatient, with the amount of time spent on Robert Downey Jr. gurning for the camera, and the terrible fall-flat-on-your-face jokes at the animals' expense. But once the voyage portion of the movie actually begins, it seems to just rush through things with no explanation as to how we got to where we were. We need to get to an island? No problem. We're there already. I remember looking at the time at one point and thinking, well, there's no way they can tell this story in the time that we have left, but director Stephen Gaghan seems to have taken a leaf out of J.J. Abrams' book and decided to just make things happen, without that pesky storytelling in between. That isn't to say there is no storytelling going on here, but it isn't dwelled upon. There is no sense of urgency, and very little time is spent on prepping the backstory. We get a cartoon intro that gives us the gist of how we got to the present, and after that we just have to muddle along. I never even understood the scale of time that had passed between the intro cartoon and where we found ourselves once the movie had really gotten started. At first I thought it was maybe a couple of decades, but then you realise that we must be talking about just a few years at most, possibly even months, which was a little confusing as I just couldn't get a grip on the timeline. And then we have Robert Downey Jr. himself. The man is now a legend as Iron Man, but that means he has done very little else for the last 5 years, and it shows. He feels awkward in this role, as though he's been miscast. He's not terrible to watch, and he tries hard to be his usual quirky self, but he just doesn't manage to pull it off when there is so much fuss going on around him. And what on earth was that accent? It took me a few moments when he first spoke to figure out where he was supposed to be from. He managed to add a kind of Scots-Irish to his Welsh accent, and while I'm sure that he enjoyed trying out what for him must have been a very novel accent, he really should have just played the character as originally intended as an Englishman. He can just about manage that accent. Michael Sheen, a Welshman, who was Downey's co-star and nemesis in this movie, must have spent many scenes wincing at the mangling of his native accent. Perhaps they should simply have swapped the roles. Michael Sheen would have made a very good Dr. Dolittle. The supporting cast did okay, though nothing special. Michael Sheen is very watchable as usual, playing the not exactly evil bad guy, and I felt as if I'd seen Jim Broadbent play that exact same role in numerous movies. He was, as always, very good, but just a copy and paste from other roles I've seen him in. The unavoidable conclusion is that this is a movie for children. Adults will be hard-pressed to watch this movie uncritically, but children will no doubt enjoy the talking animals, and the frenetic, confused pacing, and the awful toilet humour. I have tried to come up with a couple of positives for this movie, and I've racked my brain to find them, but here they are. Number 1, it isn't too long, which is a very important factor for your sanity. Number 2, the squirrel was funny. Well, there we go. Now I need to take some headache tablets, as that took a lot of work. Ouch. As usual with remakes these days, no one was asking for it, and previous versions have been bad enough that you would have thought Hollywood would know better than to dredge up this tired formula. But here it is again, and we're stuck with it. Luckily, you don't have to go out and see it. There are other options. You could read a book, or catch up on your knitting, maybe even organize your junk drawer, throw away all those old batteries. But however you choose to spend your time, there is no doubt it'll be better spent than wasting it on this sad excuse for a movie. This has been Movies Suck, wishing that Robert Downey Jr. would get back to making smaller, better movies like he used to before he became a massive star. And if he does have to have a giant paycheck, then please be a bit more choosy with the roles. Signing out. Leave a like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the flip side.